I am Liz Rose, a relationship expert, author, and researcher of emotional dynamics between men and women. For years, I have studied attraction, male behavior, emotional intelligence, and the patterns that bring people together or drive them apart. Today, I want to share with you what I have learned through my research, my professional experience, and the thousands of stories I have encountered throughout my journey. Ladies, pay attention for a moment. You have been taught that you must become more of something to be noticed by a man. More beautiful, more polished, more exciting, more mysterious, more agreeable. They told you that if you played the role correctly, if you smiled at the right time, replied quickly enough, dressed the right way, and became the image of the perfect woman, then maybe, finally, you would be chosen. But let me say something real to you now. You do not need magic. You need meaning. Because when a woman speaks from truth with the right timing and the right energy, she does not simply stay in a man's memory. She enters his nervous system. She becomes something he feels. Let that land for a moment. At some point in your life, someone handed you a false story. They convinced you that in order to hold a man's attention, you had to abandon parts of yourself. Be softer, be hotter, be easier, be more mysterious, be less emotional, be more available, be anything except the woman you actually are. They gave you rules, they gave you strategies, they taught you how to seek validation instead of how to create real connection. And yet, here you are, trying to do everything right, and somehow you still feel unseen. Have you noticed that some women can speak endlessly and still leave no trace behind? But another woman can step into a room, say one sentence, and suddenly the atmosphere changes. That is not luck. That is presence. That is a woman who understands the force behind her words. And today, that is exactly what I want to awaken inside you. Before we go deeper, like this video and subscribe, but do it as a commitment to yourself, not as a favor to me. Because if you have ever felt like you were doing all the right things and still being passed over, this moment may be the shift your heart has been waiting for. So let's start with a simple picture. Imagine standing beside a lake, so still it looks like glass. No wind, no movement, no noise. Just quiet, untouched peace. Then you take the smallest stone in your hand and drop it into the water, and even that tiny stone sends circles across the entire surface. That is what the right words can do. They do not have to be loud. They do not have to be needy. They only have to be intentional. A quiet sentence can echo long after you have left. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Most women are not dropping pebbles. They are throwing rocks. They are forcing, explaining, performing, talking too much, trying too hard to be noticed. They are flooding the conversation with words, hoping something sticks. But it doesn't, because attention doesn't come from volume. It comes from vibration. Let that line live in your body for a second. Here is what my research has shown me. The unconscious mind, the place where attraction actually lives, does not respond to logic. It responds to emotion, symbol, and energy. In all the years I have studied relationships, I have come to understand this simple fact. Until a woman becomes aware of the patterns running quietly beneath her own behavior, those patterns will keep running her life, and she will call it bad luck. The same exact thing applies to attraction. You don't make a man think about you by convincing him. You make him feel something deep down, under the surface. It is not about being clever. It is about being felt. Here is what has been going wrong. You ask, "How was your day?" He replies, "Fine." You say, "What do you do?" He gives a basic answer, and the spark dies. Why? Because your words didn't break through the surface. It's not your fault. You were taught to perform, not to connect. But that ends now. Because when you really learn this, when you learn how to use words that bypass the noise, when you understand when to say something, not just what to say, when you enter a moment with calm confidence instead of nervous energy, that's when he doesn't just hear you, he feels you. That's when you stop being just another woman and become a feeling he can't forget. You don't need 100 clever lines. You just need 3 powerful words delivered with presence, precision, and that grounded grace that makes him pause and think, wait, who is she? So, stay with me, because what I'm about to show you, it's not pickup. It's poetry. It's not manipulation. It's magnetism. And once you learn to speak with meaning, not just noise, you'll stop trying to chase love and start learning how to command attention. Your words carry energy, not just information. The mind doesn't remember words. It remembers energy. It's not logic that keeps you in someone's thoughts. It's impact. Write that on your mirror, because that's the foundation of everything. Most women believe they need to impress a man with the perfect question, the perfect answer, the perfect image of themselves. But here's the truth. He doesn't remember what you said. He remembers how you made him feel. Say that again out loud if you have to. Because when you speak to a man's unconscious mind, you're not just starting a conversation, you're shifting his emotional current. Let me paint this for you. Imagine walking into a room full of thousands of balloons. Each balloon has a phrase written on it. Hi, how's your day? What do you do? Where are you from? You speak, your words float up, and just like that, they disappear into the clutter. No impact. Now picture this instead. Same room, but instead of releasing another balloon, you light a single candle. That one flame changes everything. It draws the eye. It sets a mood. It lands. That's what the right energy does. You don't have to be loud. You just have to be real. But most women are afraid to speak with depth. They think it's too much. They worry, what if he doesn't get it? What if I sound weird? What if he doesn't respond the way I want? So what do? They fall back into safe phrases. Hey, what's up? Just checking in. How was your weekend? Harmless, maybe. Memorable? Never. You were never meant to be background noise, but you were taught to blend in, to not shake the water, to stay polite. Men don't remember polite. They remember presence. Because when your words come from intention, when they paint a picture, when they carry an emotional pulse, you stop being that girl from the app. You become a moment, a feeling, a memory. So from this moment forward, no more empty phrases, no more autopilot intros. From now on, your words carry weight, the 3 words that change everything. Now that you understand the power of energy, let's go deeper into the words that land. You don't need a paragraph to leave a mark. Sometimes all it takes is 3 simple words. You and me. I know what you might be thinking. That's it? Yes, that's it. And that's exactly why it works. Because sometimes the most powerful shift doesn't come from shouting. It comes from a whisper that lands in the right place, at the right time, with the right energy. You and me. It's not a pickup line. It's not a script. It's a mirror. It's a spark. It's a moment. And when spoken with calm, grounded confidence, it becomes unforgettable. Let's break this down. When you say, you and me, you're not making a demand. You're not even making a request. What you're doing is planting a picture, a suggestion, a tiny emotional movie inside his mind. You're speaking the language the unconscious actually understands. Not pressure, not performance, but possibility. You're saying you and me could be something, not because you're needy, not because you're begging for attention, but because you know your power. Let me say this loud and clear. The unconscious male mind doesn't respond to instructions. It responds to images. Not evaluation, not critique, but emotion. So when you say you and me, what you're really doing is speaking in symbol. And symbols bypass his brain and go straight to his bloodstream. Let's paint a scene. You're sitting across from him. The energy is light, playful. He's talking about something he's passionate about. Maybe tacos, maybe hiking, maybe music. Instead of saying, I like talking to you, you lean in, give a half smile, and say, you and me could have dangerously good conversations. Boom. You didn't flatter him. You didn't compliment him. You didn't chase him. You included him. You invited him into a scene, one that didn't exist until you spoke it and it landed. That's the difference. You and me isn't a pitch. It's a picture. A little burst of chemistry, a dash of suggestion, a splash of mystery. Try this. You and me would win any argument, especially if we're on the same side. Or, you and me should be banned from late-night pizza runs. Way too dangerous. It's light. It's suggestive. It's not trying to get a response. It's planting a seed. Now, I know what your mind might whisper, but won't he think I'm being too forward? What if it doesn't land? What if he doesn't say anything back? Let me tell you something powerful. You're not saying it for a reaction. You're saying it for an impression. And that impression lingers. It's not about control. It's about confidence. When a woman says you and me with calm, certain energy, something shifts, not because he feels pressured, but because for the first time in a while, he feels possibility. He sees an opening, he imagines a connection, not a performance, not a resume, not a checklist, just something real. And here's what's beautiful. You don't need him to say anything in return, because the power of this phrase isn't in his response. It's in the feeling it leaves behind. Let's say you're mid-conversation and he brings up a favorite book, place, or activity. You nod, smile, and say, "You and me should definitely do that sometime." Now pause and let it breathe. Don't stare at him. Don't follow it with nervous laughter. Don't rush to fill the silence. Just let it land, because the woman who trusts her presence doesn't chase the moment. She creates it, and then she lets the silence do what noise never could. Here's a truth most people miss. It's not about the phrase, it's about how you own it. You and me only works when it comes from a place of internal congruence, when your voice, body, and energy are all saying the same thing. When your posture says, "I don't need a yes to feel okay." When your smile says, "This is just who I am." When your energy says, "I'm not asking for attention, I'm offering presence," that's when he leans in. That's when he thinks, "She's not trying to impress me, she's making me feel something." And that, my friend, is unforgettable. So let's recap before we move on. You and me isn't a script, it's a symbol. It bypasses the mind and speaks to the subconscious. It's not about pressure. It's about play. It doesn't chase approval. It plants a vision. And most importantly, it works only when you're grounded in your own worth. You don't need clever lines. You don't need to perform. You just need to speak from that quiet, powerful place inside of you that says, "I already know who I am." Because when you use this phrase from that place, he doesn't just hear it, he feels it, and he doesn't forget it. Energy carries the words. Now let's go even deeper, into the energy behind the words. Because here's the truth. You can say the most powerful phrase in the world, but if you say it with the wrong energy, it dies before it ever lands. Your energy speaks long before your lips ever move, and the body never lies. In my years of observing couples and studying attraction, I have come to see this again and again. What a man feels comes far more from your body language, your tone, and your presence than from the words themselves. Too many women walk into conversations with beautiful intentions, but with energy that whispers, "Please like me, please approve of me, please give me something so I know I'm okay." And even if the words sound confident, the vibration underneath is pure grasping. Energy doesn't lie. Let me give you an example. Two women say the same line. "You and me would make a dangerous team." One says it with crossed arms, eyes darting to the floor, voice trembling slightly. The other says it with relaxed posture, calm tone, holding eye contact just long enough to be felt, not forced. Same words, entirely different frequency. You already know which one he remembers. The second one, because she didn't ask for a reaction. She didn't perform. She just said it and let it live. So here's the shift. You don't chase attention. You command presence. Not with volume, not with cleverness, but with inner congruence. That's what makes a woman unforgettable. Her words say one thing, and her energy says the same thing. Her body, voice, and gaze are aligned. No grasping, no rushing, no apologizing for being there. Let's talk posture, because your body speaks louder than your mouth. Ask yourself, are your shoulders relaxed or hunched? Is your voice steady or rushed? Are you making eye contact like you're searching or like you're sharing? You want to embody one truth. I'm good with or without your reaction. That's confidence. That's stillness. That's power. Not the loud kind, not the dominant kind, but the grounded kind that says, "I trust myself. I trust this moment." Want to know the most magnetic gesture? Stillness. When everyone else is trying to fill the air with chatter, with movement, with noise, you simply be there. You let your energy fill the space, not your voice. Stillness is not passive, it's powerful. It says, I'm not rushing to prove anything, I'm not afraid of silence, I am the calm inside the room. Let your body say that before you ever say a word. Now let's bring it back to our phrase. You could say, you and me, 100 times, but if your tone is hesitant, if your eyes flick away, if your posture screams, I hope this lands, it won't. Because the man doesn't just hear the words, he feels your state. He senses your nervous system. He picks up the tension in your breath, the fidgeting in your hands, the slight hesitation in your tone, and whether he can name it or not, his unconscious mind knows exactly what it means. She's not sure of herself, and when you're not sure of you, he can't feel you. Now, let's flip it. You say, you and me, with grounded, playful energy, voice steady, body relaxed, eyes warm, but not searching. And then you let it go. You don't watch for his reaction. You don't beg the moment to bloom. You just let it land like a soft pebble into a still lake. That's when he remembers it. Not because you made a scene, but because you planted something alive. Here is the most overlooked strategy of all. Don't rush to fill the silence. Silence is not the enemy. Silence is where the impact lives. Say the thing. Say it with intention. And then pause. Breathe. Smile even just a little. And let that silence stretch just enough for it to become memorable. Because when you give your words space to breathe, they echo. Let's stop calling this confidence. Let's call it what it really is, congruence. When your words, your body, and your energy are speaking the same language, that's when people lean in. That's when men notice something different. That's when they think, she's not trying to get me. She's showing me who she already is. And in a world full of noise and performance, that kind of authenticity is rare. That kind of presence lingers. So here's your invitation. Stop overthinking every word. Start aligning your energy. Don't ask for permission to be felt. Speak from the part of you that already knows she is. The woman who gets remembered isn't the loudest in the room. She's the one who speaks with calm and then lets the silence do the rest. Timing is sacred. Here's a truth almost nobody talks about. You can have the right words, you can have the right energy, but if you speak too soon, you don't spark chemistry. You short-circuit it. Because in real connection, timing is sacred. Say it too early, and it lands like pressure. Say it too late, and the window is already closed. But say it at just the right moment, and you don't just connect, you ignite something. Let's go back to our phrase. When you drop it, matters just as much as how you drop it. Think of timing like music. Even the most beautiful note sounds wrong if played out of rhythm. So let's talk rhythm. Let's talk about those subtle, magical windows that open up when the energy is right. Here's what most people do wrong. They rush. They try to force a moment instead of waiting for one. They throw out you and me in the first 10 minutes of a chat before the emotional space has been earned. Why? Because they're nervous. Because they want connection fast. Because silence makes them fidget. But when you speak before a man is ready to feel you, you don't come across as confident. You come across as trying to impress, trying to move things forward, trying to fill the space. And trying energy is always felt. Let's flip it. Let's talk about the woman who waits, not passively, but intuitively. She senses the shift in rhythm. She feels the moment when the conversation gets lighter, when he leans in just a little closer, when his tone softens, when he starts revealing pieces of who he really is. That's the window. That's when you drop it. Not like a big reveal, not like a punchline, just like a natural continuation of the moment. Let me paint it for you. He's talking about the best tacos in the city. You smile, lean in, and say, you and me should test that theory. Boom. Simple, smooth, real. No pressure, no performance, just a little seed dropped into the current of the moment. And what do you do next? Nothing. You don't wait for applause. You don't stare him down. You keep the conversation flowing like you just said something completely casual, because to you, it is. That's the whole point. Here's the secret. Attraction doesn't need to be chased. It needs to be activated, and timing is the activator. The key isn't saying it at the right point in the conversation. It's saying it when his energy is open, when he's not performing, when he's not guarded, when he's there with you emotionally. And that, my friend, is a skill, not a strategy, a felt sense. Once you learn to recognize it, you won't need tactics. You'll just know. So, how do you know if the window is open? Here are some signals. He starts sharing instead of just answering. His posture softens, less guarded, more relaxed. He's not just talking, he's engaging with you. The conversation isn't rapid fire. It flows like water. You're both laughing, playing, vibing. That's the moment. And in that space, you and me lands like poetry, not because it's loud, but because it's true to the moment. Now let's talk about what happens if you miss the window. Let's say the moment passed. He's distracted, the rhythm shifted, the tone changed. Guess what? You don't chase it. You don't rewind. You don't try to recreate the vibe. You wait, because another window will come. This isn't a one-shot deal. It's not about saying the line perfectly. It's about learning to flow with connection, not force it. Trust this. Your timing is never too late when your energy is right. So breathe. Let the moment come to you. Here's a deeper truth. You don't plant seeds in concrete. You wait for fertile ground. And in conversation, fertile ground is emotional openness. It's shared laughter. It's ease. It's play. When that's there, you drop the line. You say it once, and you let it echo, because words backed by timing don't need repeating. They linger. Now let's talk about frequency, because timing isn't just about when to say it. It's also about how often. Here's the rule. Don't overplay the card. Say it once, and it's mysterious. Say it too many times, and it becomes noise. You and me is not a trick. It's a touch. Too many touches become pushy. But one well-placed, well-timed phrase that's unforgettable. Think of it like perfume. A single drop lingers. A whole bottle overwhelms. So drop it once, drop it well, then walk away from it like it's nothing. That's the art. So here's your next level takeaway. You don't need to force the phrase. You need to feel the moment. Let your intuition guide you. Let the energy tell you when the door opens. And when it does, don't hesitate. Speak, and then keep moving. No validation needed, no overthinking, just the quiet knowledge that what you planted is already doing its work. Because here's the truth that very few understand. The most powerful moments aren't the ones you push. They're the ones you drop quietly and leave behind. Let him feel it later. Let him hear your voice when he's brushing his teeth. Let him remember it while driving home. That's impact. And that's what timing makes possible. A story deeper than words. We've talked about words, we've talked about energy, we've talked about timing, but now let's talk about something deeper, because when you say you and me, you're not just dropping a clever line, you're inviting someone into a symbol, a myth, a moment that doesn't just speak to the man in front of you. It speaks to something inside him, something older than logic, something deeper than flirtation. Let's be clear, the unconscious doesn't speak English. It doesn't respond to instructions. It responds to emotion, image, symbol, story. This is why a simple phrase like you and me hits harder than a perfectly polished paragraph. Because it's not just a phrase, it's a mirror. It shows him a glimpse of potential. It whispers, here's what we could be. Through my years of studying relationships and the emotional patterns beneath them, I have come to believe that every one of us carries stories deeper than our own individual experience. Timeless patterns of love, power, belonging, and partnership that live somewhere beneath conscious thought. And when you say you and me with calm energy, at the right time, with the right presence, you're not just talking, you're activating something ancient. You're speaking in the language his conscious mind doesn't even know he understands. And that, my friends, is what makes it unforgettable. Let me give you a picture. You say to him, you and me would cause a little trouble, wouldn't we? On the surface, that's playful, but underneath, it's layered. It paints you both as characters in a story. It creates an us, where there was just a you and a him. It shifts the dynamic from strangers to co-creators. You're not just talking, you're casting a role and inviting him into it. He might smile and laugh and move on. But later, alone in the quiet, that phrase circles back. This is what I call the myth memory effect. When your words carry symbolic weight, they don't just land in the moment, they echo in his subconscious. He may not even remember exactly what you said, but he remembers how it felt. He remembers your presence. He remembers the pause. He remembers that moment of spark. And that, my friend, is impact.